everybody back. My name is Vicki Wild. I am the Director of Professional Learning, and I am so excited to be helping you kick off the 25-26 school year. If everyone could please rise for the pledge. This morning, we are so excited to welcome a musician who has just finished her time at Scano Elementary School and is about to embark on middle school at Coda. Everyone, please welcome Ling Yi Wang. thank you so much for that beautiful opening to our Superintendent's Conference Day. One more round of applause for Lingy, please. And now, please welcome our Interim Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Cecily Wilson-Turner.
Good morning. So, my husband said, "Get up there and make a joke." And I said, "Michael, this is a very serious event. I will not be getting up making a joke." And then the joke's on me because I just dropped the lavalier mic, Drew. Sorry. And now I've got to figure out how to clip it back on because I have a hard time staying still when I talk. But I do have the other mic on, right, Brooke? I'm good on that. All right, so you guys give me just a second. Am I still good, Drew? Great. So, we are about to embark on a new school year. And you have no idea how incredibly excited I am to join you here today. And how incredibly stressful it is to think about speaking to all of you for a length of time in a meaningful way, over and over and over and over again, to the point where I was walking up and down the hallway yesterday, and my husband said, "Are you still practicing?" I said, "I am. There's something to this." And still, that it is a thing. I still woke up early this morning just to put final tweaks on it, because it is an incredibly important day, and I want to make sure that it is delivered in such a way. What an incredible performance by Miss Lingy. I was waiting to see what a sixth grader would bring to us this morning, and of course she did not disappoint, because our students are incredibly talented, gifted, and we create spaces where they can showcase that talent and continue to grow. And so it was an incredible way to start the morning. So thank you to her and to her family who shared her with us this morning. So now I would like to take some time to do some introductions. So we have with us this morning our Board of Education, and I want to thank them for their tireless commitment to our district and their presence here this morning. And so I am going to call you by name, ask that you stand and let people see you and put a face to your name. I know you are thrilled at the idea. So we will begin with our board president. And I'm going to get your name right this time, Miss Deanna Stevenson. Our vice president, Mary Colleen Lamberti. Next to them, board member Gusta Miller. Our newest board member, Miss Andrea Gallo. Board member Petra Holden. Board member Naomi Hoffman. And board member Carla Thompson. So thank you again for being here and your service to our district. We also have some new faculty and support staff that I would like to welcome to the district. And while I won't call you by name, I will ask that if you are new to Shen, please stand. Over the course of the summer, actually late spring and summer, we hired 25 new STAs, 39 in CSEA, and 15 term appointments. We also, if you talk to HR, had 180 HR transactions in relation to staffing, right? As we fill positions, backfill positions, as people transition to other positions. So there are a lot of steps that happen over the course of the summer to make sure we are fully staffed, and we are appreciative of our hiring teams and our HR department. Finally, I do want to highlight, we do have some new administrators to our district. And so again, as I call your specific names, please stand. Our new principal at Acadia, Phil Wyman. Our new class assistant principals at High School East, Jason Belknap and Jackie Coughlin. And not super new, but just joined this spring and think she should be introduced again, Miss Brianne Hazelton, our new Director of Special Education. We will also be bringing on a new special education academic administrator to support elementary schools by the name of Cher Farashi, and she will join us next week. So those of you who are new to Shen, please know that you are joining a welcoming and supportive community that strives every day to be our best by working collectively together. And we look forward to the value that you will add to our organization. So I do want to take a minute to acknowledge the horrible fire that occurred in our community over the weekend in Loudon Square. We are incredibly grateful that no one was injured, and I'm incredibly appreciative of our team who worked over the weekend to try to figure out which families were impacted. We did find one family with 3 children, pre-K, 3rd grade, and 6th grade, that were directly impacted and lost everything. I want to say thank you to our leadership team and counseling teams at Aranjan and Acadia, and the district leaders that helped develop a plan to ensure that this family is supported with school supplies, changes in transportation, and whatever they may need to still successfully be able to start the school year. So thank you to each of you. And please keep those families in your thoughts. It's a great example of what we step up and do naturally as a district. And so in advance, I thank each of you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will do for our children and our families. I gotta remember how I'm gonna stand for this. Okay. So this morning, I want to take some time to reinforce who we are as a district and ground us in our common goals and essential objectives. At the same time, I want to share with you what lays on the horizon for us this school year and how that will impact and shape our future as a district. And finally, I want to take some time to share with you who I am as a person and a leader, because I believe it will provide context for how we work together to achieve the goals that we have set forth as a district. So as you can see, our 2025-2026 theme is "The Future is Now, Defining Tomorrow Through Actions Today." It seems to be a very simple theme that we execute daily. We took actions all summer to plan for curriculum and instruction, professional development for new staff, from maintenance to teachers, and think of all the things our incredible office staff pulled together to make sure that everything was ready for the opening of school. Think of our maintenance teams and our tech teams who are in our classrooms as we speak, making sure that you have what you need for the first day of school. So we take actions every day to prepare for tomorrow. And let's not forget transportation, who has to route every child in this system. And then think about what you have planned for your own children and the things that you are putting in place today to ensure they have the future that they want. And then think about you being one step along a child's journey to a future they can't yet envision, and how you prepare them to be able to access their choices in life. What we do is not about setting them on a singular path. It is about making sure they are prepared and have every possible pathway open to them. This theme drives our budget planning process that secures the ability to actualize our district goals and objectives. It secures our significant big rocks for the year and our individual and collective commitment to excellence. I find the theme incredibly timely, as today we shape the next chapter of Shen and begin to determine what may show up in a time capsule 25 years from now. Today commences a new school year, which is always rife with opportunities and serves to ground us in what we know about ourselves as members of this school community and the greater purpose of our organization. What we set in motion today has the potential to shape the experiences and outcomes for students who have not even enrolled in Shen yet, as much as it will impact the many eager faces we will greet tomorrow. So while we have a new theme each year, it is always aligned to our district mission and goals. In fact, it is designed to reflect our current efforts to ensure the actualization of our mission and goals, the actions that we are taking today to make our mission a reality for our students. So it was important for me to pull back through the Shenendehowa mission. We see this articulated in different graphics throughout the district and throughout different presentations, but I thought it was important that we take a look at the words. We work continuously in partnership with the people in this room and outside to ensure specific things for all students. And you'll hear me say all students over and over and over again, because we do mean all. And it's about giving them what they need to develop the knowledge, the skills, abilities, and character, really shaping who they are as people so they are able to lead productive lives, and again, are able to make the choices that they want to make in life, not the single choice that we think may be best. And we have a lot of graphics that show how we actualize the mission, because otherwise your mission lives on a piece of paper and it isn't what you embody each and every day. And our opportunity to actualize the mission comes in many formats, but one of which is the profile of a Shen community, in which you see keywords like engagement, innovation, globally competent, and collective work and responsibility. It's what we expect of our staff. It's what we expect to model for our students. It's what we expect them to be able to demonstrate. And as we've spoken about before, it is very clearly connected to what will ultimately be the portrait of a graduate sent out by New York State. And then we have our district goals and objectives, which I have found incredibly valuable that they have been so constant over the last few years here at Shen. It has allowed the organization to be grounded in what is a core value and how that core value gets actioned, but it's also, in its essential objectives, flexible enough to meet our current needs. And so hopefully these are goals and essential objectives that you've seen many times over if you've been here at Shen for a very long time. And hopefully you see the connection to these goals and essential objectives throughout the work that you do, because that's what ensures that we are accomplishing our mission that we've set out for as an organization. Our 4 goals start with organizational culture and environment. And I always have said, without a strong organizational culture, not much else gets to happen. And so we invest in making sure that both staff and students feel seen, heard, and supported, and have ways to engage in meaningful ways in our organization and ways to feel valued in our organization. And that is what we will continue to strive to do. The school and classroom experience to me has always seemed very obvious again, right? We are all here only because there are students that we get to serve. And we are all here to help shape what that school and classroom experience looks like, but we are intentional in the actions that we are taking to make sure that curriculum, instruction, and assessment is reflective of the current research, current best practices, and the current knowledge base of all of you who are in this room who shape those objectives. The work that you do collectively influences not just the classes that you may teach as teachers, but the other classes that exist in your PLC or at your grade level. And it ensures, again, that we have this collective capacity that pushes us to our commitment to excellence. We'll talk a little bit later about the other components of instructional delivery and dynamics and our equitable measures of student learning as we continue to look at the different grading practices and reporting structures that we have. Personnel and professionalism is not just about what we hire in HR, but about all the professional learning and investment that we do in our staff here in our system. It's about recruiting well and then making sure that we're able to retain good people by providing them with the skill set that they need. And finally, fiscal responsibility. While we would love to lay this completely at the feet of the business office, we each have a role to play in strategic budgeting and how our resources are allocated to meet the greatest needs in our system. When we do that, we are able to establish a structure and predictability that allows for the continued success of our organization and not significant dips in our performance or experiences for students. And so these goals allow us to continue to move our mission forward and again, clearly align with our ability to take specific actions that will ultimately shape what happens in our future aligned with those goals. So our goals are a constant, right? There are things that haven't changed in that goals document in years, but what shifts every year are what our big rocks are. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to give you a sense of what the big things that will be happening in the district this year and the different roles that people will play in them. So I won't lie, one of my favorites is the Early Learning Center. It has been a long time coming. As a parent in Shen, who was hoping for full-day kindergarten, but now I have a 7-year-old, so that dream has died. But it's coming, right? And so it was really great to put in the opening letter to families that we are planning to open this center for the 26-27 school year. And as exciting as it was to write, it was a little nerve-wracking because we just committed in writing that this is going to be done. And thus, every conversation at the construction table is, it's going to be done. But it has been an incredible amount of fun to work with some incredible folks on our kindergarten ad hoc committee who has worked tirelessly over the last 2 years to start to map out what instruction looks like in those buildings. They've participated in looking at furniture and colors to really make this building come alive for our students. And so while it is an intensive project, it is definitely a labor of love on the part of the people who've been around the table to do that work. So just a couple of fun pictures to let you know the work is really happening. And we do plan a full campaign to really show you the progress of the Early Learning Center and to continue to provide information to keep you informed. But this way, you also become a vehicle in our community as families have questions about what may be coming. So this is where we started, right? We gutted an office building that is of tremendous size. It is 3 floors. It can house up to 40 classrooms for kindergartners. And so after we've gutted each floor, I say we as if I was in there doing something, right? After we've gutted each floor, the collective we, now you can see the framing of the classrooms coming to life. So you can see the tracks where the walls will go into. But what always jumps out at me is the natural light that is going to come through those classrooms and embrace our children as they're learning in their first experience in our district. So the work is fully underway. You've probably seen people on the roofs. You've probably seen people coming in and out, and that will increase. Later this fall, we hope to see a playground going in, and so it will really start to take shape and take form and become a reality. So we've showed you renderings, I think, over the course of the last half of the year, or last year. And so I'll keep trying to put those images in front of you each time we get to make a decision about a color choice or how something's going to be laid out. And so that's the hallway that the children will walk down. And there's a multi-purpose room where I know we are eager to set up little target stations, kitchens, block centers, and all kinds of play-based learning opportunities for our students. There's one that's ocean-themed, and there's one that's forest-themed. This is our library, which will have a maker space in one corner and the traditional library seating space in the other corner. Again, our librarians, our physical education teachers all have had an opportunity to provide some insight into what these will look like. Okay. So that was the fun Early Learning Center. And then we decided on top of that, during last year's budget cycle, we would put forth an $85.5 million referendum to do more construction in our current buildings. So that's all starting to happen now too. And that's pretty exciting because there will be 4 phases to this project, which we shared during the budget season. And we started looking at what projects lie in each phase. Immediately what will happen in the coming months is that we will take on 2 new EV chargers and buses. And that is a part of that capital project. But the one I had to tell you today, because I remember being at my first budget meeting when I arrived here, a budget presentation, and the question was, when is middle school getting AC? Like, you can tell us whatever else, but when are we getting AC? So in phase 1 or 2, which I'm not putting a year on, I'm saying it here now. I did not say a year. Phase 1 and 2 will include air conditioning for at least 85% of the middle school and high school west. That is the first project that we will tackle as a part of this capital project. By phase 2, it will be 100%. So we'll start with, and what, I'll share you just little tidbits that I'm learning, right, as I sit in construction meetings, because that's my background, not. I might just put the AC in, right? Like, we gotta get going. And they're like, well, we have 3 middle schools, We have numerous additions that have been put on said middle schools. We have how many different systems connected to different systems in said middle schools. And so not quite as easy as like. So they, to their credit, they did go back and look at how we could bring the majority of spaces online in that first wave or first phase of that project, because it's really important. And then we have some fun projects that will be happening, trying to repurpose space at the high school east, as well as rebuilding the entrance space to high school west. And so they do try to group the projects together by building, and then we'll continue to move through phases. But those were two I wanted to highlight. We still have paving work that needs to happen at elementary schools, things that have to happen in ceilings and in floors, and those will come in phases, again, grouped by building. But that was one I wanted to share, as that's where we're starting. And trust me, it takes a while. We start just with submitting drawings and proposals to SED and waiting for them to give us feedback before it even gets started. But it's coming. And of course, no surprise, this is a big rock for us this year, but I want to say not as big as we think. Because I think you all have done some incredible work already, setting expectations for how students engage in your classroom spaces, and that's ultimately the purpose of this policy. But according to a summer school student that I visited with, and I said, I think Matt introduced me, Mr. Davis introduced me, this is our interim superintendent, Dr. Wilson Turner, and she goes, oh. So you're the one taking our cell phones. And I tried to dance a little bit. I'm like, well, the governor said we had, and she wasn't buying it. She wanted to make sure that her device was going to be secure, and so we had a good conversation, I think. She still wasn't buying it. And that will be the case. The majority of our students will understand what they need to do what they need to do, and then we'll work with those who may struggle to understand why their device can't be in their hand at all times. And we understand, because sometimes our devices are in our hands at all times. We will continue to reassure our families that they will have access to their students when they need to have access to their students, and that once upon a time there were no cell phones, right? We figured out how to stay in communication and to keep people safe, but we recognize the changing landscape of how and when our children are going to school and endeavor to be supportive of that. So grading and assessment has been a big focus in the Office of Instruction, and that will continue. I want to give a huge shout out to the elementary report card team for 2 years of work trying to come up with an elementary report card that is responsive to demonstrating the learning goals of our students. And so as a result of their work, we will be launching a new elementary report card this trimester. We have a brochure, which is featured in this cute little graphic here, for our families, as well as a video that we shared earlier this summer to start getting them ready around the shift in the new elementary report card, which is standards-based and moves away from a percentage and reflects more of the grading scale that is used for New York State assessment. They took a lot of time to pull out the priority standards and to then identify the assessments that will support them, and they will continue to work with their academic administrators throughout the course of this school year to make sure that they're able to use the report card as a tool as it is designed. They are designing rubrics to help parents better understand who their children are as learners, really under the expectation that we want to paint a fuller picture for families beyond a number. We continue our work with secondary grading guidelines. A lot of work was done to really bridge between the flexibility that is needed for each course and the standardization that is needed to ensure that parents are receiving a consistent message around their child's performance. And all of this, again, aligns to the Portrait of a Graduate, which I shared with you in the March Superintendent's Conference Day, and New York State actually adopted over the course of the summer. They've just adopted the graphic and the indicators. There's no rubric or any next steps with it at this point in time, so we have time to begin to familiarize ourselves and make those clear connections between the work that they're doing and that we're already doing in our system. Special education. I thought it'd be a missed opportunity if I didn't talk a little bit about the special education review that many of you participated in March of last year. We've gotten a preliminary report back that we've been able to tease out some trends in, but really what I wanted to talk more about today was the process, because one of the questions that came out through the program review is, so what happens with that information, right? And what I want to reassure you is what doesn't happen with that information is the special education director and I don't sit down and Lori sit down and, I didn't introduce Ms. McKenna. I'm stopping my thought because I asked this individual to come out of retirement 2 months after she came out of retirement in order for me to step into this role. She brings an incredible background in special education, in systems, in so many other things that I'm sure that you read in the email that was sent out, that I'd be wrong if I didn't ask her to please stand and wave. This is Ms. McKenna, Interim Deputy Superintendent. And I sat you right in front so I wouldn't forget. But it made me think of it because one of the reasons Ms. McKenna is great for the role at this particular time is she'll be able to work in partnership with Ms. Hazelton to really comb through the findings of that plan. And the goal will ultimately be to develop an action plan, but not in isolation. Really, it'll be teasing out the big rocks and what stakeholder groups need to be a part of the development of those plans so that we have a comprehensive approach to how we begin to transform special education in our system. The good news is there's a tremendous amount that we do well. There are things that we need to refine. There are things that we need to communicate better. There are things that we need to take feedback on and make adjustments on. And there are things that we'll be able to do quickly, and there are things that are going to take us time. And going through this process will provide us with an opportunity to do exactly that. So I like to group, and we'll try to continue to group, the findings from that report back to our goals, right? Back to this theme that there are actions that we're going to be able to take that transform the future of special education. One of the great things is we as a system recognize that students with disabilities are all of our students, right? If we said that word all would occur over and over again. However, we need to take the time to develop common understandings of the continuum of services, eligibility and exit criteria, and what least restrictive environment means in a CSE process. Special ed has an understanding, general education has an understanding, leadership has an understanding. We all need to have that same understanding so that when we move forward together in best support of the students. Similarly, personnel and professionalism. There are professional learning needs that people identified as they went through this process. We have a professional learning committee already established. One of the action steps could be to hand them this information and say, start to plan for what we need to have happen in special education. We have classroom practices that we need to reflect on. How do we intervene in the most effective and appropriate way for all students? And again, positively, we currently maximize our staffing ratios, but there's still an opportunity to refine how we allocate those resources. So there is much more to come in our special education program review. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the things that are coming and a sense of what the process will be. And then just a few others. Professional learning platform, we are really looking at ways to provide each individual in this organization with the professional learning that we need. And some of that can occur in an on-demand setting, so we'll continue to look at platforms that maximize that resource. We continue to look at data visualizations in every department. So the Student Learning Data and Accountability Office will be looking at how to get departments the data they need to inform the decisions that they need to make. And we were incredibly lucky through the work of Mr. Davis, Ms. Wild, and Vanessa Kramer to obtain the Learning Technologies grant that has brought on AI coordinators for every single building in our system. And really, their work is about how we bring AI to the classroom in meaningful and ethical ways. We recognize the challenges that exist, but we also recognize that there is a world that we are preparing students for, and we need to do our best job in both of those arenas. They've done a tremendous amount of work over the summer to design lesson plans for teachers to use, really starting with that focus on what is the appropriate and ethical use of AI and how it gets integrated successfully in the classroom. So I thank them for all of their work as well. So I talked a lot. And so I did want to take a minute just to let you reflect on all the big rocks that were shared, our essential goals and objectives, and just think about what actions you will take. It may not be up there on the big rock sheet. You may have your own big rocks. Throughout the year, that will shape outcomes for yourself, your colleagues, and your students. And because I talked a lot, I'm going to let you talk just for 2 minutes to the person next to you to process that. And then we'll close out. So if I had my way, I would have filled this slide with so many pictures. And I'm going out of order. We just talked about this, Naomi, right? Like I write a whole speech and then I'm offline. But I just have to I'll sidebar. And then I got to watch my time. So these cuties right here, Those are my parents. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them today. And in the corner over there is my elementary school. It's Arbor Hill Elementary School. It's in Arbor Hill in Albany, and if you know anything about Albany, it's supposed to be the worst neighborhood, this horrible place. It's a nature preserve. Literally, we would look out our windows and see wild turkeys and all kinds of animals. We would go on walks and just enjoy and explore the area. It was a beautiful building and a beautiful campus. And it was built as an open school in the 1970s, which means there were no walls, which means you could hear everything anybody was teaching or learning about on any given day. And having gone to school there and then taught there, I really didn't know any other way, and so it was completely natural to me. But these are two really important pieces in my journey that I'm going to share with you in the middle. And then in the middle, or in the moment, in the middle is not the traditional Princeton University symbol. That is the Princeton class of '99 symbol. Because we are very particular about our class, and we had the honor of celebrating our 25th anniversary last year. So thank you for taking a few minutes to reflect and discuss on the actions that will shape us, what is next for us as an organization. If I was a good teacher, during a turn and talk, I would have walked around and listened in to make sure you were on task. But I know you talked about what you needed to talk about as we come back to school. So I want to close with my connection to our theme and some context that I think that will help you understand me. I consider myself a very lucky example of a lot of other people's efforts and actions that shaped my future. My grandmothers were best friends. They both migrated from the South, North and South Carolina respectively, seeking a better opportunity for their families. They were both incredibly strong personalities who forged paths for my parents, aunts, and uncles, and early on embedded an expectation of confidence, competence, and kindness. And at the same time, they brooked no nonsense. They were also very stylish. They were my earliest models of fashion and of being warm demanders. It's one of my favorite terms to come into education because I feel like it fits me to a T. The Times Union once called me where mother hen meets drill sergeant. I like warm demander better, but I believe I get that from them. They established the importance of family through weekly dinners, which inevitably ended with me and my cousins creating a dance performance to the latest song, usually Michael Jackson. And it had to be performed before anyone could go home. And I think of us now as the first generation of TikTokers. But thank goodness there's no social media trail. So these two women created a space where we all felt important, valued, and loved. My grandmother's actions have shaped the core values that I hold today. I am a warm demander, and I place incredible value on family. My two boys are a large part of the reason I came to Shen, to increase my opportunity to shape their experience and the experience of their friends, and honestly, to balance my commitment to my work and my commitment to them. My parents were my earliest models of work ethic. My father, who passed away in 2007, worked a 3 to midnight shift as a dispatcher for Greyhound. Then he would get up in the morning and take me to half-day pre-K. Just me and him walking to pre-K. And you'd think as a young lady I would appreciate that. But instead, every day he dropped me off, I cried. And I cried, and I cried. And then he'd come back and get me, and I'd be happily playing, and it was time to leave, and I'd cry because I didn't want to leave. But he still showed up every day for me. And between him and my pre-K teacher, Miss Rollins, they persisted, and we figured it out. And it made me think of how I know some of our kindergartners will come in to our system tomorrow and need a little bit more love, support, and attention, and that our incredible teachers, in partnership with their parents, will make sure that they make it out more than okay, too. Now, my cute little mom, she's a hairdresser, and you'll see her sometimes. She'll come to some of the musicals with me, and we get to enjoy time together. But as a hairdresser, she worked Tuesday to Saturday. She worked well into the evening because that's when people need to get their hair done. And so while our parents worked, my sisters and I learned how to cook, clean, and take care of the house and each other. And as a result, to this day, I'm fiercely independent and believe in working until the job is done and done well. In addition, my parents also made deliberate choices about our schools. They chose to send us to the new elementary school that had no walls. And Arbor Hill is where I grew as a student and later as an educator, teaching kindergarten, 3rd, and 4th grade. I could fill this slide with teachers, my staff, my school counselor, Ms. Orsini, and administrators who shaped a path and planned and prepared for my future that I couldn't even see yet. I recognize that all these people set in motion my ability to decide between going to the College of St. Rose or going to Princeton University. And as a senior, I agonized about that because all my teachers had gone to St. Rose. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so why go all the way to Princeton if I'm just gonna come back and be a teacher? And my very wise mom said, you can always go to St. Rose. Come back and do your master's. Go to Princeton. So that's what I did. But from Princeton, I actually went to NYU for my master's and then returned to Albany to learn from the incredible faculty at Arbor Hill. There is something special about having your former 1st grade teacher model classroom management for you, being in a space where it is safe to make and learn from your mistakes and truly be better each day because of the people around you and their willingness to partner in teaching and learning. We also had some of the best maintenance staff who would kindly ask me to step down off of tables and chairs and random ladders that I brought in, trying to set up a new classroom setup. And then there was this petite little maintenance worker, Dottie. She had to be in her 70s. And each night where I stayed at work later than I should, she would walk me out to the parking lot. Now, what was Dottie going to do? What was I going to do? But what mattered is she was there with me every single time. And so there's something about being able to show up for others and invest in them. And so I learned early on the incredible value that our office staff, our maintenance staff, all those folks behind the scenes play in making sure we're successful at school. Each of the next steps in my career were shaped by the work or ideas of others. My principal at Arbor Hill reconnected me to the College of St. Rose, and I did my leadership program there. He found the information and encouraged me to attend, even though I had no desire to be a principal. I love teaching. But after 3 years, after completing the program, I obtained my first elementary principalship, and I got a little too comfortable there in a 3 years' time, and a friend of mine named Dr. Ray Colucciello, some people may know him, longtime superintendent who has never learned to retire, decided for me that I needed to learn systems. And he was right. And what I learned about systems is how to lead through others and to develop an understanding and how to leverage them. And yes, systems include people and are about people, not just about processes and protocols. And I learned what people needed was to be heard and to know that if I could do something to make the school experience better, that I would do it. I reached a point after going to Albany High where I realized I needed more in order to help transform the experience of a large high school that had many needs over a course of time. I went back to school and obtained my doctorate from Columbia University. And it was so cute, one of the principals there, she said, oh, we're all getting our doctorate, right? Because whatever you learn, we're gonna learn and we're gonna apply and put into practice. And so it was an incredible experience to be able to lead in that way. And so my leadership has forever been shaped by the actions of others and my own commitment to providing the best leadership for people who show up every day to do their best for students. So my last role before coming to Shen was an assistant superintendent for elementary instruction. And in that role, I learned sometimes you have to slow down to go fast. And that when we are narrowly focused and clearly aligned to our goals, our impact is significant and sustainable. I worked closely with some amazing building leaders to get off one state list or another, and we did. And then a month after I left to come to Shen, one of our schools was announced as a school that had demonstrated some of the highest growth in New York State. And I say that because it was the principal and the staff in that building who did the work. My role was to create and protect the space for them to be partners in teaching and learning, to take the risks they needed to take to make good decisions for kids, to slow down, to go fast, and to value the power of being narrowly focused. All of these incredible experiences led me to this district, where a commitment to excellence is the motto. It aligns so well with my warm demander, yes, I'm choosing that phrase, personality, my work ethic, my systems thinking, my go slow to go fast philosophy, and the overall desire to always be competent, confident, and kind to ensure continuous, sustainable, high-quality experiences for all students. I am incredibly grateful for all of the people who have shaped my journey, my core values, my ability to choose between the best path for me at any given time. I am grateful to the hiring team for selecting me as Deputy Superintendent, and for Dr. Robinson and his constant leadership class as I was in the Deputy Superintendent role. I am grateful to the Board of Education for entrusting me in this interim role. I hope we take the opportunity to take the actions today that help positively shape the future outcomes for a student, a colleague, or ourselves, and that we make time to see in others what they may not yet see in themselves, to ensure that we collectively reach our greatest potential. Thank you.